So, where would you rather be? Where the Rams were last year on March 27th, or where the Rams are this year on March 27th? This Ram. Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the March 27th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. Okay, the Rams have made a big signing. We've got Ram talk to deal with. We've got some Matthew Stafford talk we want to get into. I want to do a little thing here where we look back at the career of Chris Long a little bit. And I do have a little bit of Kistler Law Ram trivia for you today. And I'm going to throw that at you right now, if you guys can do it, and do it without cheating. Who was the Rams' very first draft pick overall? The Rams' very first draft pick overall. I'll leave it right there for you. Thank you for clicking on. And as you ask questions, which has been kind of what we've been into these last few months, I'll see them in the comment box. As we get to the center part of the show, then we'll start breaking all those down. I'm not ignoring your questions. Okay, well, I guess that's about it for Ahkello Witherspoon, right? Nice run with the Rams, good season, a season I don't think anyone expected him to give. But now with the signing of Darius Williams and Tre'Davious White the other day, I think it was Monday night or Tuesday. Was it Tuesday morning? Tuesday? Somewhere. That's when the news broke that, Ahkello Witherspoon ain't coming back. He gave the Rams a nice season, made some nice plays, and now the Rams have clearly moved on. And besides Darius Williams, now it's Tre'Davious White, the former Buffalo Bill. You know, there was buzz. Everyone knew. We talked about it about 10 days ago. White did the circuit around the NFL and ended up getting a one-year deal with the Rams that's worth up to 10 rocks. Now, that seems kind of pricey for a guy that has had so many injuries of late these last few years. 21 games in the last 3 seasons. That's all he's played. But you have to believe that maybe the Rams medical staff was feeling very confident about him to offer him something more than just the veterans minimum, which I know I play it cheap all the time. I ain't giving those guys anything until they prove it. But obviously the Rams thought something there. He's scheduled to make 8.5 rocks this year, 10 with incentives, and it's just a one-year deal. And you go back just a couple of years, he's not 30 yet. He was an all-pro performer, right? He was drafted 27th overall, first round, 2017 out of LSU by the Bills. He's been to 2 Pro Bowls. He was all-pro in 2020, picked off 15 passes in his first 4 seasons. In fact, out of 64 games, he appeared in 61 of them, started in 61 of them. But the last 3 years with an Achilles injury, I believe it was a knee injury, he's only appeared in 21 games. He only has 3 picks. Interceptions generally are not a criteria for me. And I think for most people, I'm not unique in this because they don't throw at you, right? It's not necessarily a criteria for how good your corner is. It's a good thing, but it's not necessarily the end all of metrics to measure a cornerback. White is 5'11", 192. He's a wide corner, which means he doesn't play any slot. And so we're going to see, right? We're going to see where this ends up because right now the Rams have 2 boundary corners. They got Darius Williams and they got Tre'Davious White. And if anyone told you they had foreseen this is the way the Rams would spend in terms of payola here in the offseason, you didn't think it would be this way, right? Darius Williams was kicked to the curb, and I'm sure the Rams did an adjustment there and said, oh, let's bring our dude back. Tre'Davious White. The irony of Tre'Davious White is he was cut by the Buffalo Bills. And, the whole rhetoric coming out of Buffalo is we don't want to overspend and then have the bill come due and wind up like the Rams. Well, the reason why the Rams got Tre'Davious White now, or White was on the market, was because the Bills overspent. Kind of like that 6-year, 120 rock contract they gave to Von Miller. So it's perfect irony. So the Rams get Darius Williams, Tre'Davious White, and then they sign Cameron Curl. I don't think anybody saw this. I just don't. And think what they're paying these guys this year. They're paying established NFL veterans. Remember, we didn't have established NFL veterans last year. Witherspoon a little bit, but established NFL veterans. Cameron Curl is making 4.2. Darius Williams this year is going to make 4.6. And White is going to make 8.5. That's about 17 rocks. Now, according to Spot Track, that's about 17 rocks for 3 established guys in the secondary. And that's pretty amazing what they did. And now, if they get hurt or whatever, we understand. But before incentives, they're only spending 17 rocks on 3 established guys. And again, look at their contracts. Williams, 3-year, Curl, 2 years, White, 1 year. This is about 24 and 25. This is about the Rams Super Bowl window, which we were clapping hands for and talking about back in January, that the Rams Super Bowl window officially opened up with the start of the 2024 season, which began on March 13th. Regarding the slot corner now, it doesn't look like White's going to play there or Darius Williams, but it goes back to who's going to play the slot corner now for the Rams. And it comes down to Quentin Lake and Kobe Durant. If you remember last year, even though he didn't have a great year and he missed some time, Durant never looked comfortable in that slot spot, right? He is a boundary corner, I think, by trade. He went there, I think, to increase his value, and maybe he's a team player, all that kind of stuff. But it was Quentin Lake who played very well in that spot, exceptionally well. And so it'll be interesting because you look at PFF and they still have Durant in that corner slot now for the Rams. And it'll be interesting to see when the season opens. If it opens with Durant at corner, then you got to figure they're not going to take Lake off the field. Lake's going to be the other safety with Cameron Curl. But if they decide that Lake is going to be that slot guy, then the Rams are going to be looking for another running mate at safety with Curl. That could be Russ Yeast, Jason Taylor, already on the roster. These are successive draft picks. Russ Yeast in 2022, Jason Taylor in 2023. Or maybe they go with John Johnson, who's not on the roster right now, but if he does come back, he's still in his 20s, and he can come in for the veterans minimum if he's got anything left in the tank. Question came up, does this mean the Rams won't take a cornerback? I think it's highly unlikely. Let's just say everything stays status quo. Rams stay at 19, 52, 83, and 99. There's 4 picks in the first 100. I think it's highly unlikely the Rams take a draft pick at 19 or 52. Take a corner with draft picks 19 or 52. Could they take a corner at 83 or 99? That's a possibility, right? That's a possibility. And then, of course, that puts some guys like Darian Kendrick and Travius Hodges-Tomlinson kind of on the spot because they're easy cuts. Both were 6th-round picks. Tomlinson didn't play at all last year, and Kendrick's had his ups and downs. And then, of course, you look at Tre'Davious White. He's just a 1-year contract. So at 83 or 99, could I see the Rams drafting a corner? Yeah, I could. Could I see them more likely drafting one in the back half in the rounds 5 through 7? Yeah, I could see that too. Let's just say it all stays status quo, and you got Lake at the slot corner position. You got Darius Williams and White at the boundaries, and then you're running Cameron Curl and another running mate at safety. That the depth that leaves the Rams with at corner is Darian Kendrick, Kobe Durant, and Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson. We're just going to call him Trey. All these corners now have this apostrophe in there. Trevius, Tredeus, Legarius, right? They all have the apostrophe. So we're just going to call Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson. We're just going to call him Trey Tomlinson from now on. But that's depth. There's a lot of depth there. Not starters, but depth. I mean, they've started in the past and they got experience. So that's a good crowd to run with. So I think the Rams secondary is looking really, really solid. And the expectation is, if not yeast, let's find out what Jason Taylor has. So one quick reminder here again, draft order made official for April. The Rams have 11 picks, 19, 52, 83, 99. They don't have a pick in the fourth round, 154, starting in the fifth round, 155, 189, 209, 213, 217, and then in the seventh round, they have 254. Again, I think a lot of us are thinking, a lot of just good people who are aware, where are the Rams going to draft, right? Where are they going to draft? Are they going to move back? I think we're going to see either a DT or an edge. I think it's becoming clearer and clearer. But will they move back? Because there are a lot of edge guys out there, and you don't want to pay too much for an edge guy who might not perform this year. And so, but they are going to have to get some help along that defensive front as well, and probably also look for a running mate for Ernest Jones, because again, Ernest Jones last year was contract. If Ernest Jones plays the way he played last year, maybe takes it up just another notch, he's not coming back. I just don't see it, because I don't think the Rams are going to match any offer that another team might give him. And so we're going to need another linebacker going forward. Around the NFL and other places, former Ram Josh Reynolds signs with the Denver Broncos. He can be there and destroy their playoff hopes. Former Rams safety Rodney McLeod from way back when. Rodney McLeod was one of those guys, along with TJ McDonald, one of those guys that, just set the precedent that the Rams don't re-sign their safeties. But Rodney McLeod re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. So good for him. He's really worked out a nice career. This was interesting. Christmas is on Wednesday this year, and the NFL is playing games on Christmas. So they'll be playing Wednesday games this year. I like it. I always want to watch football. I'll always watch the NFL over the NBA. But my question is, will it be safe for the players? Because I'm being told here with all the new rule changes that they say player safety is a priority. And I know I hear people say that, playing on Sunday to Thursday, the analytics show that there's no real. You're telling me that just because a guy doesn't go down with a catastrophic injury, that his body's not beaten up? This is the NFL. This isn't high school football. This is the NFL. And these guys are getting beaten up. And they're also men. They're getting older. And those bruises and bumps and stiffness hangs around a lot longer. And also, what are they doing to their bodies to get themselves ready? So, yeah, I'm happy to see a game on Wednesday. But what about player safety? And that's probably my biggest question with Thursday. Team plays on Sunday, and then they're back on the field Thursday. Football's a brutal sport, man. It is a brutal sport. And I really don't want to listen to the bean counters and the analytic people tell us, well, it doesn't make any difference. No, maybe it's not a catastrophic injury, but it is wear and it is tear. And I think we're just one catastrophic injury away from anything happening before they decide we got to do something. The dreaded we have to do something disease. It's like Washington, D.C. Something horrible happens and it's like, we have to do something. And really all the what to do or the to do something business is about it's just about CYA, right? It's about covering your rear. So you got some plausible deniability and be able to say, well, hey, I told us to change the rule after that player got hurt or something. And so, I'm not into it too much in terms of hearing them talk about player safety. I'm just not. But, if they're willing to go out there, if the players union signs off on it, hey, I'll watch because it's the NFL and it's better than the NBA on Christmas. Besides, in my house, all the Christmas stuff takes place on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, everyone's just loafing, and I get a free chance to watch football without having to make any adjustments. So got that going for us, which is nice. Jadeveon Clowney, right? A lot of us were speculating with the Rams. He signed a 2-year deal with the Carolina Panthers for 24 rocks, 20 which is guaranteed. There is no way in San Jose that I ever would give that guy 20 rocks guaranteed. So happy he's not a Ram. And I was leaning that way. I was leaning like, hey, man, sign him. If he's worth 5 rocks, give him 5 rocks. But to give that guy guaranteed 20 for 2 years, homie, don't play that, man. Happy the Rams did not sign him. Other news around the NFL here is that NFL is pretty much going to do the XFL kickoff. I think we talked about that. Players will line up on the opposite 40. Kickoff will be at the 35. They won't move until the ball hits the ground or touches a returner. A touchback is brought back to the 30. And I thought that was kind of funny. It's like 5 yards, right? If I got a dangerous return guy down there, you know what? The ball starting at the 25 or the 30 doesn't make any difference. If they want you not to kick the ball out of the end zone, they should say, hey, we're going to put it at the 35 if you kick it out of the end zone, right? And if the ball goes out of bounds, of course, that's a flag, and it's a 40. It goes to the 40. The onside kick, has to be declared, and then it's done by the traditional way we see the onside kick, or the way they've morphed it into a disaster. The onside kick is non-existent. They really need to go to those new options where it's 4th and 15 or 4th and 20, because the onside kick is dead. They've killed that. Other news, they talked about the hip drop tackle in defense of it, saying the hip drop tackle only happened 230 times last year in all the games. Someone said like once or twice a game. But here, the funny thing is the hip drop tackle wasn't being called last year. It wasn't being flagged last year. Those 230 times that they're calling there was an actual hip drop tackle in a game, that's by review, by tape, after the season's over, and they're watching and adding it up. That's ridiculous analysis. We got to be thinking about, what is an official going to call, supposedly wanting to do his job, right? And what is he going to be looking at, and what is he going to be seeing, and how is he going to be required or feel like he's required to throw a flag in those insta-seconds, right? Required to determine if all 3 markers have been hit: the wrap, the drop, the landing, all that kind of stuff. You're going to see flags more than 230 times. You're going to see it repeatedly, I believe, because they're going to make close calls, and they're going to say, well, maybe we can review it or something. You're going to see all kinds of close calls because now it has to be called. This isn't go back when the season's over and add up by review. Oh, there were 230 hip drop tackles last year. Yeah, that's by a set criteria, by people sitting at a desk and watching it, as opposed to those officials on the field with everything else they got to do, right? And all the ridiculousness they have to call. They're going to be throwing flags left and right. So that's just my take. I think, hey, if it doesn't, great, but that's just the way it seems. Every good deed has a bunch of bad consequences. It just does. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView along with writing books. My books are on Amazon. You can check them out, Joe Terosian, and just the way it's spelled, Torosian. And we thank you for your support. Book sales have gone up a little bit, and we appreciate that. Don't have a paywall, don't have a Patreon account, and so I use RamView and our sponsors and my books to help me keep employed in my day job. I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, right there on 505 South 6th Street in Burbank, and we're right here on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Burbank Faith Virtual, right here, and across BurbankFaithVirtual.com and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media platforms. All right. It's really cool to be here. Let's see. Who do we got here today? All right. Evan Hotz. Way to go, Joe. Hey, man. Thank you so much for clicking on. I appreciate it. Steve Ramirez. I always thought an extra bye week should be built in where teams playing on Wednesday, Thursday would be preceded by a bye the previous Sunday. Hey, I think that makes a lot of sense, man. I really do. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know. We hear about player safety all the time, right? But yet, the real things that seems like would be player safety is, let's have a 16-game schedule. Let's have 2 preseason games, and let's leave it at that. And let's be careful about those Thursday games. And if you're going to do a Thursday game, those midweek games, which Wednesday now is, then yeah, you better buffet it with a bye here or there. Make their games on Saturday instead of Sunday. The NFL has no fear. They'll go into all the uncharted spaces, right? They'll go into a Friday night. They'll go into a Saturday if it's for college football. They'll go into a holiday, even if you got the NBA. So they're the monopoly. They're the monster. They're the beast, right? Tim Burns, didn't know you were on. Sweet, right? I've been in a little bit of a 5 o'clock rhythm lately, and so we're kind of just sticking to that, Mr. Burns. If you guys have other questions, fire them at me. I'm going to get to them in the back of the show. Don't forget the Kistler Law trivia question of the day. Who was the Rams' very first draft pick? Who was the Rams' very first draft pick? Don't cheat, which I know it's easy to do, but we're throwing it out there. Okay, heard a lot of talk about restructures, and the news came out, the owners' meetings this week, that Les Snead, Matthew Stafford, and Cooper Kupp will not be restructured. I think that's a good thing. I think it keeps them right in that 24-25 window. When you restructure the contract, it kind of like extends it out, costs you more money and extends you out, pushes you out to 26, 27, and 28. I think the Rams are saying this is our window, 2024 and 2025. And if Stafford's still throwing the ball around like Tom Brady or something at the end of 2025, I'm sure they'll come up with a deal. But he's making 49 rocks this year, and people are saying, "Oh, that's a lot, man. That's just too much." And it is a lot of money. I agree, it is a lot of money. But for a quarterback at Matthew Stafford's level, with his accomplishments and what he can still do, 49 rocks for a Matthew Stafford, you're going to think it's crazy. It's a bargain. The going rate for a starting quarterback in the NFL now is 50 rocks. The going rate for a great quarterback is very high 50s and into the 60s, and we're going to show that here in a second. Stafford's going to make 49 rocks this year, 50 next year, and 49 the year after that. Do you know what Deshaun Watson's making this year? Deshaun Watson. Is Deshaun Watson Matthew Stafford? No, of course he's not. Each year for the next 3 years, 24, 25, and 26, Deshaun Watson's making $63.9 million per year, fully guaranteed. Would you rather have Matthew Stafford at 49 or Deshaun Watson at 63? I rest my case. Kyler Murray is scheduled to make 49 this year, 45 next year, 2025, and 55 in 2026. Who would you rather have, Kyler Murray or Matthew Stafford? Is Kyler Murray anywhere near what Matthew Stafford is? No. He's not. Dak Prescott is in the news because right now it looks like the Cowboys, for some reason, they got this wind of wisdom in their facility here. So far, they say they're not extending Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is nowhere near Matthew Stafford, right? But Dak Prescott's making 55.6 this year. Who would you rather have, right? Is it $6 million cheaper for Matthew Stafford, a really good bargain? Then you get into Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes has done some recent restructures, and we know that. And, of course, he's at a different space in his career than Stafford is. Mahomes is only making 37 rocks this year, only, right? We understand. It's all relative. But as of right now, in 2025, he's scheduled to make 66. And then in 2026, he's scheduled to make $68 million. That's the going rate for a high-end quarterback. Because of his new contract, Lamar Jackson's only getting 32 this year. He's making 43 next year. And then in 2026, he's scheduled to make 74 rocks. Is Lamar Jackson a 74 rock player? Is he a 68 million player? Is he a 66 million player? Again, did you see the playoff game? The guy's a great quarterback in the sense that he's a leader. He plays hard. This guy has worked hard to improve himself. I really like Lamar Jackson, but not over Matthew Stafford. He can't make those throws. There are throws he just cannot make, and you don't pay him. You shouldn't be paying him 74 rocks, and we'll see how that thing plays out. Josh Allen, who got the bag and I think he's restructured. He's only making 30 this year. Next year he's making 60, and then in 2026 he's making 56. That's a team-friendly deal, believe it or not. Josh Allen is somebody I would trade Matthew Stafford for, or trade for and give up Matthew Stafford. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. To me, they're the only two guys. I know people think, what about Joe Burrow? What about Jalen Hurts? A little too early to talk CJ Stroud. But yeah, it's a very small window, and we need to appreciate what we have in Matthew Stafford. He is not overpaid, and there shouldn't be any pressure on him, to be a good guy and restructure anymore. Because, at his age, he's won, Alaric Jackson goes down with a, twisted ankle, and he's won, Zachary Thomas appearance away from going on the IR. So Anyway, wanted to get that out. Draft, not the Draft Network, the Bucky Brooks. Bucky Brooks's 3.0 mock draft came out recently, and actually just yesterday. And, you got Caleb Williams at number 1. You got Taxkins taking Jaden Daniels at number 2. But Bucky Brooks vaults. Has anybody, this guy climbs the charts faster than a Led Zeppelin hit, right? I mean, or a Beatles hit, right? This is like 18 with a bullet, right? J.J. McCarthy. If you remember during the playoffs, J.J. McCarthy was being talked about as a second-round prospect, right? And I'm not taking away anything from J.J. McCarthy, right? But Bucky Brooks has J.J. McCarthy vaulting to number 3 overall to the New England Patriots. I guess the Patriots figure one Michigan quarterback worked out, why not another? But that's really interesting. Brooks has the Cardinals holding on to Marvin Harrison at number 4, but he has, instead of trading back, which I thought, my thinking is the Chargers would, Bucky Brooks projects that Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers would take Joe Alt, the Notre Dame left tackle, at number 5 overall. And, what is it? Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt matches up perfectly with Harbaugh's personality there, that he's just going to be rough and tumble and he's going to just bang away. And, Joe Alt going a little higher is the first time in 3 weeks I haven't seen Joe Alt go to the Titans at number 7. He's got Malik Neighbors going to the Giants, the LSU guy, at number 6. He's got Olam Fashanu, who's been dropping recently, the Penn State tackle, going to the Titans at number 7. The Falcons taking Dallas Turner, the Alabama edge. The Bears taking Rome Odunze, and we've seen that over and over again with some other mock drafts, and it really makes sense. They got DJ Moore. They got Keenan Allen, but he's a bit long in the tooth, and you bring in a Rome Odunze, hopefully to build a rapport with Caleb Williams as the years go on. That's such an interesting – the Bears are going to be so interesting. I don't think they're going to be great this year, but they are going to be interesting. They got Brooks projects the Jets taking Brock Bowers at number 10. Okay, I want to throw this at you. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Marvin Harrison, Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, Olam Fashanu, Dallas Turner, Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers are the first 10 picks in the draft. Who's missing there? Anyone want to know who's missing? Right? Who's missing? Bucky Brooks projects the Vikings at number 11 taking Drake May. Drake May dropping to number 11. I mean, when you're going from the 2nd overall, I mean, that's almost an Aaron Rodgers free fall. Almost. Not quite, but almost. And how fortunate for Drake May would it be if he ended up in Minnesota with a Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, right? How fortunate would he be? And that would be interesting. Don't see it happening, but that would be really interesting. Brooks has the Broncos at 12 taking Jared Verse, Raiders at 13 taking Tulisi Fuagua, Saints at number 14, J.C. Latham, the Alabama guy, Quinyon Mitchell going to the Colts at 15. We've seen that quite a bit. Troy Fontenot going to the Seahawks at number 16, which blows me away because 2 years ago, they were feeling really good about Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas as their tackles. And I don't know if Fontenot is a guy that can go inside. I think they talk about him having short arms. I don't know. Could he go inside to a guard spot? Is that what they're thinking? I do not understand why the Seahawks are not looking for a quarterback, unless they are and no one knows, right? It's not leaking out. Terrion Arnold, the Alabama corner, going to the Jaguars at 17. Brian Thomas Jr., so that would be an interesting pick for the Bengals at number 18, the LSU guy. And then, of course, Rams at number 19. Bucky Brooks projects the Rams taking Byron Murphy. So there's your interior defender. Dolphins or Steelers taking Amarius Mims, tackle, Georgia. Dolphins at number 21, Jackson Powers Johnson. Eagles at 22, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Vikings number 23, Cooper DeJean. Cowboys number 24, Graham Barton out of Penn State. Out of Duke. Packers at number 25 taking Peyton Wilson. And Peyton Wilson's an off-ball guy who has an injury history, played at North Carolina State. It's the first time I've seen him in the first round, but I've seen some mock drafts that had the Rams taking him at 52. Peyton Wilson would be cool if he's there at 52. Latu Latu, the UCLA guy, going to the Bucks at 26. Darius Robinson, the Missouri edge, going to the Cards at 27. Jerzon Johnny Newton going to the Bills, number 28. Chop Robinson, who Brooks projected to the Rams in his 2.0 draft, dropping to number 29 to the Lions. Tyler Guyton, tackle Oklahoma, to the Ravens at 30. Ravens lost 3 offensive linemen this offseason. And then, of course, Nate Wiggins, Clemson going to the 49ers, and the loss of L'Jarius Sneed, deep wide receiver draft. The Chiefs at number 32 take Kamari Lassiter, knowing they could probably get another receiver. So we've looked at 22 mock drafts. 6 of them have Latu going to the Rams. 3 of them have them taking Johnny Newton from Illinois. Bucky Brooks' first draft, mock draft in January, had the Rams taking Bo Nix. In February, it was Chop Robinson. And in 3.0, it's Byron Murphy out of Texas. Okay, we got those out of the way here. Let's keep moving on. Just looking at the teams the Rams are playing, Vegas came out with their projected win totals for opponents this year. The Dolphins are projected to win 10.5 games, which will be interesting to see. They've got a solid, not great offensive line. Maybe that's why they draft Jackson Powers Johnson. But they got guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. They got Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, Bradley Chubb at 13 sacks last year. And then Jalen Phillips was off to his best year before he tore his Achilles. There was good news, a good report on him in February. He had 7 sacks before he went down. So this team is pretty good. And then they get the Jets twice. They get the Patriots twice. This team's pretty good. But you know what? I don't know if I'm going to upset people or not. I don't like their quarterback. Tua is not a bust. Tua is not a terrible quarterback. I'm just not into Tua. He's going into his 5th season. He's coming off his best year, and he's only a 23 rock hit this year. So they got to make their move now. They got to do it now. But here's the interesting thing. We're talking about bargains at quarterback. The estimated market value for Tua Tagovailoa going to 2025 after this coming season is 6-year contract, 302 rocks, an annual salary of $50 million a year. Is Tua anywhere near Matthew Stafford, right? Matthew Stafford's a bargain, guys. Just another reminder that Matthew Stafford's a bargain. And I just don't believe in Tua. I just don't. The Dolphins' schedule, of course, Jets, Pats, Bills at home. They get the Jaguars, who should be on the rebound. The Titans would be interesting because it seems like they're playing for keeps. Why would they go after Snead? The Cardinals, who are going to be improved, 49ers, and Raiders, all at home. On the road, Jets, Pats, Bills. But on the road, they got to go to the Texans. They got to go to the Colts. That's tough. They got to come to the Rams. It's always tough to go to Seattle. And then they got to play the Browns and Packers. Browns got a nice defense, and the Packers. So I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe. I think 10.5 wins. I know Vegas isn't ever supposed to be wrong, but Vegas projected 4 wins for the Rams last year, and they won 10. I don't see the Dolphins winning 10 games. I just don't. And can Tua navigate another full, healthy season? Speaking of quarterbacks, kind of quarterback show today, talking about Tua and his contract. These are the quarterbacks. Excuse me. These are the quarterbacks I wouldn't sign, extend, and that I would move on from. In Seattle, I do not understand. They should be ready to contend, right? And I would not stick with Geno Smith. I would make some move. I just would not stick with Geno Smith. Arizona, if I had a chance to make a move, someone suggested them holding on to number 4, drafting a J.J. McCarthy if he's there, or another one of those quarterbacks if they're there, and then dealing Kyler Murray to somebody else. I would deal Kyler Murray, right? Relatively speaking, for what he thinks he is or what people thinks he is, until you get into a couple years down the road, he's a relatively inexpensive quarterback in the 40 rock range. But I'm just not a Kyler Murray guy. And when was the last time he was healthy for a whole season? Dak Prescott, I would move on from him. Daniel Jones, you move on from him. And this one's going to be hard for people to hear because he was extended. He's extended through 2028. And in 2028, he's scheduled to only make 47 rocks. But I would move on from Jalen Hurts. Something about Jalen Hurts just doesn't fill me with confidence. And I didn't think he looked that good last year. And part of his game is running, and he takes a beating. And he looked like he took a beating last year. And if he's not running, I don't know if he's got the passing chops, right? The full passing chops. Bryce Young, of course, it's too early. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers, this is it. If I'm the Jets, this is it, right? He's got a 2-year contract. If he's done after this year, he's done after this year. I move on. Steelers, I know Steeler fan Rob is not going to be too thrilled about hearing this. But I want to know what the end goal is with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Is it Super Bowl this year? Do you believe that Russell Wilson's going to take you to the Super Bowl? Yeah, I understand you took him. He's better than Kenny Pickett. But sometimes I just find out Steeler fans are just happy they make the playoffs, right? Oh, we made the playoffs and we had a winning record, but you never go anywhere. So I'm curious, Steeler fan Rob out in Missouri, is it Super Bowl or bust? Because we just lost Aaron Donald, and TJ Watt is getting older. So is Minka, by the way. And of course, the Browns, they're married to Deshaun Watson, and it's nothing but trouble. All right, guys, I see the questions. Let me go to the questions now so we can get – I know some guys are waiting there. Let's see. Tim Burns, do we go edge first with the White signing? I would trade down and go edge, offensive line, wide receiver, best available, and get the kicker from Stanford. All God's people said, get the kicker from Stanford, Mr. Burns. Yeah, the Rams drafted 3 edge guys. And I don't know what they think about him because Ochawan Mathis got snaps early. Nick Hampton got them late, and neither of them really did anything. Byron Young, of course, did. So I don't know what the Rams think about those guys. It's really interesting because, yeah, I would load up with a couple more edge guys because I don't think there's an edge guy out there I want to sign. So could they trade back, pick up another pick in the first 100, load up a couple of edge guys, a couple of DTs? Yeah, I could see that happening. And then maybe going after another receiver because it's a deep receiver draft. But, yeah, I think edge has got to be there, right? It's got to be there. And that's, again, I think move back in the draft. I think they'll move back in the draft. Tim Burns, Kyler Murray proves most running quarterbacks tank after a few years. RG3, Cam, for example. Kyler is good when he's upright, but he's injury-ridden and should be an A shortstop. I heard he had trouble with the curve, Mr. Burns. I heard he had trouble with the curve. Kyler Murray can throw the ball. Kyler Murray can throw the ball, but, he doesn't want to run anymore. And, I get it, but at his size, he needs to be mobile, and maybe it's a Patrick Mahomes mobile. Pick and choose his spots, and not run for a living. Cam Newton ran for a living because he just had lazy mechanics and lived on his talent, and he never ever improved. RG3 got hurt and never looked the same again. So I don't know what to say about him, except he's horrible at ESPN. But that's another story. Yeah, I'm not a Kyler Murray guy. Body language guy, just the attitude. I'm sorry. You know what? If having Kyler Murray made my team 9-8 and having Kyler Murray made my team 7-10, I'll roll the dice with the 7-10 team and make a move and bring in Josh Dobbs. I just don't like Moody. To me, Moody is not something I'm going to dance with ever. No Moody for me. Tim Burns, who is your favorite wide receiver all time? Torrey Holt, Flipper, Cooper Kupp, Harold Jackson. I know I'm older than you, Mr. Burns. My favorite Ram receiver of all time is Harold Jackson. And I do have a soft spot for a couple other guys, all those guys, actually. But, yeah, it's Harold Jackson. DHP, all right. Bacteria pneumonia is gone. Thank goodness, man. All right. So did you do another trip to the VA? Either way, good news, and Joe T is streaming. DHP, yeah, going to give me a big swelled head. Tim Burns, digging out the questions today. I would sing the Flipper themes. Yeah, we did too. I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting there with Mr. Barker. I'm sitting there with the mid staff when we were younger. Yeah, we were singing the Flipper song. They call him Flipper, faster than lightning, especially when he beat Mark Collins, sudden death, and the Giants in the Meadowlands. That was a precious moment in Ram history. Tim Burns, getting White makes offensive line at 19. Interesting thoughts. No, I really don't. I think Joe Noteboom is staying. Alaric Jackson is back. And I think the offensive line is set. I think they want to find out what they got in Warren McClendon. And you know what? I'm going to say something really taboo here that might cause something. I want the Rams to draft an offensive lineman all the time. I think the needs are so great at edge and DT that if they drafted an offensive lineman at 99 or 83, I can live with it. But at 52 and 19, if we stay at 19, it's got to be an edge and a DT. That's just how I feel. Of course, the Rams never operate with how I feel. But I'm going to say a bad word here. They want to see what they got in Warren McClendon. But you know what? I know. I want to see what they got in Logan Bruss. I'm not ready to give up on Logan Bruss yet. He went to Wisconsin, right? Even not only did Ziske get the crud beat out of him in Wisconsin, but Wisconsin just produces beasts, right? And I want to see what Logan Bruss has. Let's see. Tim Burns, Tua is a journeyman at best and guaranteed to miss a couple games a year. He played every game last year, pretty much. It was a full healthy season. Give him credit. I like him. He's a great person. What a good man. But I just don't want him as my quarterback. Steve Ramirez, I could see Murphy at 19 and then getting Gabe Murphy. Okay, Murphy with first, third round pick. Are you talking Gabe Murphy, right? That at 83? Okay, I got no problem. I think Gabe Murphy, because of Latu, he's kind of this little hidden gem in the draft, right? I think people are like, wow, Gabe Murphy is just kind of lurking out there, right? I don't know how you feel, Mr. Ramirez. You're a Westwood guy, but that's how it seems to me, because I always see Murphy's name kind of slithering in there and no one really talking about him. But I was looking at a mock draft the other day I was going to do. I kind of played with it a little bit. I did a fake mock draft. Well, they're all fake, but I did a mock draft where I did all the trading I could to get as many picks in the first 100. And Gabe Murphy was there. And I looked him up and I was thinking, I should take this guy. But yeah, that would be a great thing to check out for the Rams. Okay, if you guys got more questions, shoot them to me. But I want to move on to this date in Ram history.
It was a stone groove, my man.
Not all these days were stone grooves, but on this date, March 27th, 2001, the Rams signed free agent safety Kim Herring. Remember Kim Herring? Yeah, they signed him to a 5-year deal, but he only played 2 years for the Rams. He was a second round, 58th overall pick out of Penn State in 97 by the Ravens. And he was on that suffocating and a starter on that Ravens suffocating defense in 2000. He picked off a pass in Super Bowl 35 and won a ring there with that Ravens team with Ray Lewis and Brian Billick. And, they made a big deal about that team. I grew up watching the Steelers. I grew up watching the Rams. That Ravens defense might have been the last great defense and one of the greatest I ever saw, right? Because they certainly had no help on offense. But Kim Herring joined the Rams, played with them for 2 seasons, played in 32 games, started 31 of them, played well in 2001, 2002, but he missed 2003 with an injury, ended up getting waived and played 12 games with Cincy in 2004 before getting injured again and calling it a career. But I feel like Kim Herring comes and goes because he was on the Super Bowl team, Super Bowl 36, that, of course, lost to the Patriots. Answer to the Rams' first draft pick ever, the Kistler Law trivia question of the day. No answers to this. I didn't get any answers from you guys. Okay. So the Rams' very first draft pick was a guy named Johnny Zero Drake. He was a fullback out of Purdue. For the time, in 1937, 6'1", 213. That's an animal, right? 3-time Pro Bowler, was an All-Pro in 1940, played at Purdue with Cecil Isbell, and they were a pretty good touchdown tandem there. In 1939 and 1940, Drake scored 9 touchdowns in each season, 18 touchdowns over 2 seasons. That was a lot in the NFL in those days. He got injured in 41, and that was his last season with the team. But he was the Rams' first draft pick ever, the Cleveland Rams, first round, 10th overall in 1937. Sadly, at the age of 56, he passed away in 1973. Johnny Zero Drake. I thought that was kind of fun to get in there. He was born on this day in 1916. Born on this day in 1997, now former Ram tight end Bryson Hopkins. He's only 27 years old. And you could say what you want. He was a 4th-round pick. That's a premium pick for the Rams. And he didn't work out, right? But let's remember Super Bowl 56. Caught 4 passes when everyone else was gone, right? All Stafford had was Cooper Kupp in that game. OBJ's down. Van Jefferson is Van Jefferson, but he wasn't even healthy. Tyler Higbee was out, and Bryson Hopkins caught 4 passes. And he also, again, on the 4th down, what were the Rams at? Their own 35, 36. When they ran the jet sweep to Cooper Kupp, it was Bryson Hopkins that got the seal block down that allowed Kupp to turn upfield. Bryson Hopkins, I'm always going to have an appreciation for Bryson Hopkins. Probably had a little bit of the Gerald Everett in him. He just wasn't probably as a tight end. He wasn't a blocker. And he played out his 4 years with the Rams. He's a free agent now. I like Bryson Hopkins. Always a soft spot for Bryson Hopkins. Okay, tomorrow, since we're not on the air, unless there's some kind of breaking news on March 28th, 1985, born on that day, was Chris Long, son of Howie Long. Chris Long was taken by the Rams first round, 2nd overall in 2008 out of the University of Virginia. He was 6'3", 270. And Long was just, to me, another in the Rams' endless quest to find the next Jack Youngblood, right? Bill Hawkins, Grant Wistrom, Adam Carricker, right? Wistrom wasn't bad, but we understand they're always looking. And the closest they really got to getting somebody who is the next Jack Youngblood was Chris Long, and he wasn't very close, right? No problem with Chris Long because he was always available. Played in 114 games, started 95 of them, played 8 years with the Rams, all in St. Louis. He registered just 54.5 sacks. He did have double-digit sack seasons in 2010, 2011, 13 in, I believe it was 2011. That was his best personal year. But, the Rams weren't very good. Their defense was good in some of those years, but, of course, that was during that Fisher stuff. And when the Rams came back to L.A., I think that was announced in January of 16. In February, when the new season officially started, Long was cut by the Rams, and then he ended up in New England in 2016, and he won a Super Bowl in New England. And then in 2017, he went to Philly, and he was part of that Philly team in Super Bowl, what was that, 57? No, Super Bowl 55. I'm sorry, 52. Super Bowl 52, where they beat the Nick Foles, the Philly special. Chris Long was on the defense in that game that beat the Patriots. So doesn't go anywhere with the Rams, and he gets back-to-back rings, one with New England and one with Philly. So good for him. A good player who worked hard, retired at the age of 33 after the 2018 season in Philly. But he was considered the face of the Rams for a while there until Aaron Donald arrived, and he you can't fault him. That 2008 draft class was not a great draft class. And, I was looking at who could the Rams have taken if they didn't take him at number 2. And it was Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan went to the Falcons at number 3. And in 2008, I'm trying to think who were the Rams holding on to at that point. I think it was still Mark Bulger. And they were in the process of getting him killed. But yeah, they could have drafted Matt Ryan. Actually taken 50th overall in that 2008 draft was a guy named Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell would have been nice to have with the Rams for a decade or so. I've always been a Calais Campbell fan. All right, I think we got it all in. All right, did we have any other question there, Chief? Let's see. Steve Ramirez, Hopkins should never have to buy a drink in LA. Thank you. That's a great, if LA fans really knew football, I know I'm taking a shot there. LA fans aren't as passionate. They don't burn as hard. But it's often been said that the 85 Bears are on scholarship in Chicago, that, if they go someplace and they're recognized, they never have to pay for a meal. In LA, those Rams might not get a meal, but maybe they should get a drink. And Bryson Hopkins should. Thanks for mentioning that, Steve. Evan Hotz, good O-line observations. I heard Andrew Whitworth speak highly of McClendon. Is there anything you can add? No, there really isn't. I kind of shot everything I had right there. But yeah, people are kind of questioning Whitworth now because he was advocate for Joe Noteboom. I'm not out on Joe Noteboom either. But yeah, you got to give these guys a shot, and you want depth on that line. Now, I don't know if McClendon can swing to guard, switch down to guard if he needs to. Bruss, was going to play guard. Then they said they moved him to tackle. He had a devastating knee injury that rookie year, and probably needed more time to just, so he was practice squad last year. So I'm curious to see what we have in him. I was always advocating for Tremaine Ankrum, but Ankrum just never took advantage of his moment, or he got hurt in his moment. So they keep these guys around. Look, the Rams developed Coleman Shelton. They developed Alaric Jackson, right? They developed these guys. And, they found David Edwards, I think, in the third round. They find these guys. And so that is one of the things the Rams do well. The Steelers and Packers always find wide receivers. The Rams do have a tendency, especially under this regime, they do tend to find or develop talent. Now, they're not superstars like the Steelers receivers or the Packers receivers, but they do become competent offensive linemen. Austin Corbett, who left and went to, was it Carolina he went to? Rams didn't want to pay him $8 a year. And I thought he was kind of soft. And that's when the Rams were running the different scheme, the outside zone. But Austin Corbett was a bust. I think it was in Cleveland. He was a second-round pick in Cleveland. They couldn't get anything out of him. They moved him to the Rams. Rams got clicks out of him at right guard. Rams won a Super Bowl with Austin Corbett at right guard. So just something to think about in terms of the offensive line there. Tim Burns, we have to start an unspoken list with Fisher on it for sure. Oh, I know. I've talked about that. But if it's an unspoken list, what's the penalty? Because sooner or later, I'm going to let it slip. You got Fisher, you got Trung Candidate, you got Georgia, you got John Shaw, you got Dieter Brock. Does the list go on, right? Does the list go on? And so Eddie Brown, I mentioned Eddie Brown, and I mentioned it in my new book. I mentioned Eddie Brown in my new book that's coming out in hopefully in about a month now. But people always come back and they say, yeah, but Nolan Cromwell dropped a sure pick six. It's true. Nolan Cromwell did drop a sure pick six, but Nolan Cromwell was one of our guys. Nolan Cromwell was a second-round pick of the Rams, and he played some corner and he played some safety. He was only in his third year. Nolan Cromwell had the fake field goal run for a touchdown in OT that beat the Vikings in '79. Nolan Cromwell's Nolan Cromwell. Eddie Brown, he had one job: stay deep, and he didn't. And so Eddie Brown's name should fall into that category, not Nolan Cromwell. Evan Holtz, LMAO, on the unspeakables. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got unspeakables. They're Trump deplorables and Ram unspeakables. But I think every team probably has a list of unspeakables. You know what? When we come back on Friday, submit your votes, or you got my email. I'll put my email on here again. In fact, I'll type it out right now. Submit your votes for who should be on the banned list for Ram Talk, because I know there's a lot of pain out there. Also, if you have a mock draft, feel free to send it to me. Okay, guys, we're at the 52-minute mark. I know we got an audience out there, and I could stay here all night and talk, but I want to respect your time, and we'll respect that, and I'll get out of here right now in the next 30 seconds. But thank you so much for clicking on. Thank you guys for following us. I can't tell you what it means, especially since I'm not a bells and whistles guy. I'm wearing a shirt that's too big for me right now, believe it or not. And I'm just, and I never think things ever perfect, right? Things fall. But I think you guys help make the show better because we're talking to each other and we're talking Ram football. So that's good stuff. All right, Steve Ramirez. Brown was brought in just to return punts by George Allen. Yeah, I love George Allen. I do. I'm a George Allen guy, but I wasn't thrilled about that move. Okay, guys, God bless. Take care. We will see you on Friday.